So they will be getting their resources back at a certain point in time, and therefore being able to manage this limited supply of resources in a much better way. And I think the pandemic has made us understand how vulnerable our supply chains are. I cannot hear you, Aselita.
Thank you, Sabine. There are two views. The one view is always that the big ones, the corporates, have it easy to switch to sustainability because they are big, they have all the resources, the processes, and so on. And the other view is it's easy to start from scratch. So for startups, it's easier because, you know, they start from scratch. They don't have any past processes that they have to change. That's why I would like to invite now Verena Udmeyer, Sleepify. So we all have mattresses at home, and we change those mattresses, and I don't know, we actually dispose them. We don't know when we need a new one, we dispose. A huge Murstrum that goes to the waste, and we don't know what happens after. Verena and her team has a super solution, Sleepify. Verena, please tell us a bit more. What does Sleepify do? What is your vision with Sleepify, and from when or where can we buy such a mattress?
Thank you so much. So yes, it was actually the perfect introduction to what we're doing. We are actually all about mattress waste. So our vision is really to wake up in a world where waste is no longer a problem. And we do this by reducing mattress waste step by step. Of course, we cannot do everything at the beginning, but we're on it. We are creating a circular mattress solution for hotels. And by doing that, we can extend the whole mattress life cycle and recover the value of the material as much as possible. So exactly what Sabine just said, that is an invaluable part and really important part of the whole circular economy philosophy. And how does this actually look like? I mean, circular economy is very often, or circular solutions, a broad term and difficult to imagine how this looks like. We actually also provide our mattress as a service to hotels. Hotels basically order the mattress they want to have online. We deliver it to them, take back their old mattress, recycle their old mattress. And while the new mattress gets used, we basically monitor the hygiene levels, we monitor the condition of the mattress to make sure that we know exactly when it needs to be cleaned in order to extend its lifetime, or it needs to be exchanged. And then as soon as it's at this point, usually like after 5 years, a hotel mattress needs to be exchanged, and then we collect it again and either resell it to like a secondary customer group, or we recycle it fully and take it back into the production. So this way, actually, we can reuse the mattress material endlessly. Important note here, we are focusing on foam mattresses for the beginning. Of course, this does not work so easily with all type of mattresses. And of course, there's also some technical challenges in this process. It's definitely not an easy way to go, even if we're a startup basically and build everything from scratch. But it's an exciting one because also in Europe alone, 18 million mattresses go to landfill every single year. And this is like a huge number, difficult to imagine. I can give you like a picture into your head. So if you imagine the distance from Paris to Toronto, this is exactly what it would look like if we basically lay all those 18 million mattresses next to each other on the ground. So it's insane. And I'm like, for me, it was also a very eye-opening moment, to be honest, when I found out that, people think a lot about what's the impact of their food, of their clothes, of their mobility, all this kind of stuff, which is super important. But literally no one thinks about what's the climate impact of your mattress, even if you spend like 1/3 of your life on it. So that's was quite eye-opening for me. Coming to your question, when people can buy a Sleepify mattress, we're currently in the prototyping phase. We're testing our first mattresses beginning of next year, and we will launch our first circular mattress in summer 2022. And for everyone who cannot really wait for it and is super, excited to find out more, feel free to go onto our website on sleepify.at to always be up to date and fill out basically our newsletter form. And then you will be one of the first ones to get your Sleepify circular mattress.
Great call to action. Thank you. I'll put myself on the waiting list. I'd like to invite now Sabrina, RHI Magnesita. So what does RHI Magnesita do? A global leader in the refractory industry, but for most of us, maybe it's not very clear. And what is your contribution as an industry giant to the environment and the planet and to the people, like SDG alignment? Or welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you, Acetila. Well, Magnesita, RHI Magnesita does refractories, right? We produce refractories, which are materials used to produce pretty much all basic goods from our society, from our industry: steel, cement, glass, other non-ferrous metals, and many other materials. They are used usually to cover equipments, so these equipments can be in production, right? Kilns, furnaces, regenerators, etc. So this is very, very, we produce materials that are very much raw material intensive from minings, right? So it's very, the CO2 footprint is very high because you have all this raw material, this raw ore being calcinated and using fuels and etc. And coming to your second question, RHI Magnesita is really investing a lot on reducing the CO2 footprint from our production worldwide, really investing a lot in technology and in new ways to, for example, have more environmental friendly fuels, renewable electricity when available at the locations, and many other actions. The biggest one from the contribution of the CO2 impact is the usage of recycle the spent refractories back into the production, because then we avoid extra further mining of raw ore, right, of raw materials, avoiding the calcination and all the CO2 emission. And this is a very big thing on this industry, because as we already heard here today from Sabine, from Verena, this is not what is common, right? The industry, the consumers, the way the engineers are set to produce is using fresh insumes, fresh raw materials, right? Not reusing what is out there. And this is for me one of the biggest challenges on all this journey, because we need to challenge, and this is what we are being able to do with our innovation team, with our R&D team. We really need to change what moves the engineers, the researchers, right? Instead, like in the past, as an engineer, I can say, what really drives them, right? To produce the best in class finished goods that they could, right? Using what the best in class raw materials or components, whatever. This is what really was the past, I see. And this is not what it is anymore, right? Now, what really should drive this massive new young generation of engineers, and even everybody that is in the industry since a lot of time and has a lot of experience to contribute with that, it's make out of what is already hanging on there, as spent refractories in our case, but in general, and to make suitable finished goods with those materials. This is the real technical challenge nowadays, and this is what we are being successfully implementing in our industry. Second challenge that I would like to point out here is that recycling in these basic industries, or perhaps pretty much in all of them, it's a very basic and local thing, right? It doesn't make sense to ship used, I would say this is more or less valid for everything, materials all over the globe to be recycled elsewhere, right? So a partnership with customers, with local players, to build an ecosystem there on the community, also to generate, right, employments for the people and etc. It's a very important thing, and usually not in place yet. So this local ecosystem to really keep the spent material, right, the recycled material that you want to reuse in production, it's another big challenge from us that we are being able to evolve, right? It's a journey for sure, but it's a very, very beautiful one.
Thank you very much, Sabrina. I'd like to invite now the next guest, Katja. Great companies have great stories, and they have to tell these stories. And sometimes the stories are told proper, and sometimes there are not so proper. So what is responsible communication? And how can we understand the difference between responsible communication, a good company, and sometimes misuse through greenwashing?
Yes, Tila, that was already a very good introduction, the quote, like great companies tell great stories. And it's exactly not the other way around, as some companies might think, like great stories make great companies. No, it's not that way. So because you already mentioned the greenwashing, that the great stories make great companies' ideas sometimes lead to greenwashing. But getting back to your question, what is sustainability communication? Well, it's simply as simple as it is. It's communication about sustainability. It's about your future visions. It's, in general, communication is everything. If you want to reach your customers, if you want to motivate your employees, if you want to put up a business, and finding alliances and suppliers and so on. It's all communication. And sustainability communication simply means that you're doing it, all what you're doing, you dedicate your ideas and your visions to the idea of making the world a better place. And we just heard about ideas, and it was very convincing, your ideas of all the women that spoke before me. And this is what I would say is authentic and honest and really convincing. You're muted.
So yes, I saw, thank you. So I'll go to the next round of questions, and then we'll take questions from the audience. Please post your questions in the chat, or just unmute yourself and ask. In the meantime, I'll ask a couple of other questions in the round. Sigrid, you are focusing on regenerative farming. What is regenerative farming? And you are from the BOKU, as a student from BOKU. What is BOKU doing on communication, climate communication, and sustainability?
Okay, so I will start with BOKU because I currently study there, still in my bachelor's. But yes, I think BOKU is doing a great job at teaching their students all about sustainability, and therefore all the students become multipliers to find solutions and to become change makers in their field to steer towards a sustainable future. And that's also kind of the heart at BOKU. We study so we can have a sustainable future, to find better solutions and to really understand climate change and be able to mitigate and adapt to it. And for me, regenerative farming is a very interesting topic, which I also want to specialize in because agriculture right now is a huge contributor to climate change, because it's heavily dependent on fossil fuels. If you think about all you need for the machinery, but also for fertilization, etc., transport. And soil actually is, we depend on our soils, on healthy soils for good quality food. But what happened is that we had degenerative farming with the use of heavy machinery, also pesticides. So we depend on a lot of input on fertilization, on energy. Like right now, we put more energy into agriculture than we get out of it. So regenerative farming focuses on the health and the quality of the earth, so we can get good quality food from it. So the goal is to increase the amount of humus in the soils, and therefore regenerate our earth. And if we do that, that's also a great potential to capture carbon from the air and get it back into the soil. And that could be a great way to adapt to climate change, because healthy soil also means more water retention and more resilient agriculture. And that's especially necessary and vital for farmers that are dealing with more weather extremes, more heavy rains, more droughts. So this is a huge topic, and I think it's a huge challenge, but also a great chance to adapt to the future. And BOKU is doing a great job at doing research in this field and also educating people.
Thank you very much. So I tend normally to speak fast, and when the time is getting short, I speak faster. I'll try to be not so fast. Sabine, career in circular economy, the business part and the personal part. What can I do as a person to give my contribution to circular economy to the future, apart from reading your book? The book, I saw that the book is in the chat, so Material Matters. Can you give us 2-3 small recommendations?
Sorry. Yeah. You can start anywhere. I think I truly believe that wherever you are in a company, you can start with thinking in a different way. And I very much like the panel we had before about all the skills we need in the future. They are all relevant for the circular economy. Thinking out of the box, thinking creatively, thinking in systems, being able to make the silos dance, I heard, but also being able to tell great stories. So I really love the sentence of telling stories to wake people up. This is what we do a lot. To really, you have to be aware that the turning a company around into circular economy is very complex. So you have to engage a lot of people in your company, at least if you have a big company. If you're a startup, that's completely different, because then you have one focus on one thing. But if you work with big companies, as we tend to do, then it's every department you actually need in order to create a circular business. So you need to redesign your product, but you also need to redesign all your processes. So this capability of thinking laterally throughout the whole company is a very important skill in order to really drive circular economy.
Thank you very much.
Just to add, on the personal level, I think this intrinsic motivation and really truly believing that what you're doing is not something you do just for your career or because it's a new trend. I think this personal conviction is very important to also counter all the challenges you're going to face.
Absolutely.
So just a little reminder, Attila, I know you have the clock, you're seeing it. That's 10 more minutes before the room. Oh.
I have the timer with me.
Wow, okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. So next, Verena, very short, founding a startup, founding an impact startup. Everybody says women in startups, too less women. And what are the challenges or what are the gains? Maybe the challenges we know, but what are the gains of founding an impact startup?
Very good question. I would still like to quickly touch on the challenges, because for us, the key challenges as specifically a circular economy startup is very much about finding the right partners to work with, because in circular economy, you always need to partner up with other key players along the whole value chain, right? So really identifying the right ones and the ones that are actually also willing to take the risk or share the risk and be involved. That's kind of a tricky one. And a very one challenge is very much related to this one is also in the end you need to educate people. You need to share, create awareness for a circular economy, because a lot of people don't know exactly what this term stands for and what they can really do, and why this is like a huge thing for the future. So these are like two specific challenges that we see in our field. And regarding gains, I mean, to be honest, from a personal level, it's very rewarding to just try it out. I mean, people are always saying, yeah, you have set your idea in your head, just try it out. It's not that easy to take the step, definitely, but as soon as you kind of jumped over your inner shadow kind of, then it's definitely rewarding, and it always like you learn so much along the way, and it's so great to combine on the one side your passion, what you're standing for, what's driving you, with impact for like a better future for all of us. And I think this is, for me personally, the biggest gain out of this whole thing.
Thank you for your honesty and for your motivation to drive this startup. Good. Sabrina, you are a company with 200 years of history, 28 production sites, 100 countries shipping worldwide. How hard is the shift to this total sustainable business, and what recommendation would you give to women who would like to work on corporate sustainability, real, like your company?
It's hard, for sure. But for sure, the career is very, like was said here already, it's very, it's not like doing it only for your career, right? Like you said, but it really comes from inside and really makes a lot of sense to you. And it's very, to bring people together on this route, and this work together as a, in a big company to change it towards this new future. It's very rewarding. It's very important. And this is the correct moment for that, right? As we all know as well. All the industry, all the society, all the communities, they are shifting to that goal together. So this is really the best moment for new careers, for changing business, for coming and doing something different and impactful on the businesses. And it's also very interesting to have people that think differently, right? Because usually, especially in these big corporations, there is a lot of people that are there since a lot of time doing the same thing with the same way. So this new way of thinking and bringing this new energy, it's very interesting. It's very welcome.
Thank you, Sabrina. And Katja, what are your recommendations for our listeners that are either working in corporate communications or would like to tell their company stories, startup founders or managers that would like to tell their story properly? So they're a good company, good story.
Well, first of all, I would say you should define sustainability for yourself and for your company. This is the first thing you have to do. And then I would always do a list of all and collect numbers and figures of all the good efforts that my company is already doing, and also the harmful processes and activities that harm environment or any other SDG. So this is the most important things, I guess. And then once you have this list and you have the facts, the stories will fall out of it. And you can also see, is there already a balance that I can tell, or do we have to start more efforts? And well, one other recommendation I would give to you is join networks that really try to make a difference. Find networks on a local base or international base where companies are already supporting each other. And you can found a network even right here. I mean, if you put your email addresses or your interest into the chat, we can say, well, let's start sustainability here at this moment and exchange. Do exchange among us. Well, yes, is there anything else? I think this is already most important, because as I didn't mention that at the beginning, sustainability needs to start in the top of the company. So it needs to be in your genes. It needs to be in everyone's mind. And if you need to convince your board or your management, if you're an employee in a huge company, then it's also good to collect figures and quotes from people to convince those people.
Thank you. Great words, Katja. And great advice. I'll start. So here's my LinkedIn. Please post your LinkedIn here so we can connect, starting the network here. A last recommendation, a last word to the listeners, to the people who are listening in this deep dive. I don't know, whoever wants. Sabine, Sabrina, Sigrid, Verena, Katja. Use every moment.
I'm happy to get started. To take this chance to also again position how important the circular economy is, because we cannot really continue with our linear models, right? Because what we do at the moment is really like a mortgage on the future, and that cannot continue because future generations would hate us for this, and we have heard lots of stories about that recently. Everyone knows it, right? So in the end, we really need to design out waste in our economy, and we need to transition to circular economy. And I would ask everyone in here to take the first step to get into action and do something about it.
Let's make a world a better place. I think this is what we should keep in our minds.
I would like to also share mine, which is very obvious because I say it everywhere and every time. If you want to change the world, build a startup. If you want to build a startup, change the world. So
that's nice. What I very much like is what Katja's advice also about defining what sustainability is. In our case, we start with every client defining their circular vision. And I think this is a very, very powerful instrument. We have last year we worked with the Swiss Railways, for example, and I'm so happy now to see everywhere their slogan we are using wir nutzen endliche Ressourcen unendlich. This is their slogan now, which is great, and which is sort of a very powerful way to combine a team around a vision.
Thank you very much, all. We are in the last seconds. We tried in this panel to show 5 different profiles, business profiles, but also fields and dimensions, seeing from the startup, the student, the giant, the industry giant, the corporate communications, and the circular economy pioneer. We hope we have given you some insights. If not, please connect, ask questions. Our experts and our panelists are able to answer you also later, I hope, in LinkedIn. Thank you very much, SHEeconomy, for putting this panel together, and thank you very much for everybody who was here.